Hey guys, this is going to be a full tutorial on a specific module today. We're going to check out multi-level token module. You know I use it heavily on my maps, and so we're going to go through all the different ways to use it and all the settings so that you know how to deploy this in your own maps. To start with, I'm just going to give you a little demo of what you can use it for. So if I bring my little token through the docks here and I approach the inn, I have a separate map that's called the Docks Tavern, and this ports me into that map, and I can go have a drink, head upstairs. I'm clicking on journal entries to initiate, and notice I'm seeing the tavern patrons from below. They're in this below area. So we're going to talk about how to create that. Just to give you some more ideas of what you can do, I'm going to go down to the basement. This teleports me to yet another map, even though as a player I'm not necessarily aware of it. And in this map, I am underneath the tavern and under the docks in the sewers. Notice there's nothing to click here until I step into the region, and then it becomes available. We're going to talk about how to control your player's access to different things. Now, as a player, the GM has given me access to a couple of teleporters. So I'm going to throw a teleporter down, and it's going to materialize before my eyes, and I am going to step on it, and I'm going to teleport to where this one is coded to, and that is the Galleon map. From the Galleon, I'm walking around the deck. I can see some of my compatriots here. But if I walk into the interior rooms, I'm actually on a different map. This is one big, huge map, and I'm on a different level, but I'm still seeing my friends out on the deck. Maybe they're having a battle. If I go further into the Galleon, I see some friends here and also some down below in the hold. I can jump down and join them. And interestingly, I can even target them from up here. So let's say I want to get access to the tower, and my GM has given me this teleport point. Step on. Uh-oh, I don't think I'm ready for this fight. So I'm going to bring out my mansion. And I'm going to step inside. Here I am in the safety of my mansion with all my servants. By the way, all these maps that you're seeing, even a lot of these tokens are all available for free on my Patreon, and all of these hotspots are set up. But inside my mansion here, there's also more than one level, and I can automatically transport to these different levels. And you'll see, again, you can see my staff down below, even though I'm at the level above. So I'm going to walk you guys through how I did all of these things and how you can do the same thing. And so that's what today's tutorial is going to be about. Let's get into it. Okay, now that we've seen the demo, let's get into the initial setup and just some rules of MLT. First rule is you must install and actually activate multi-level token. If you don't know how to install a module, that's super basic stuff everyone should know with Foundry, but if you don't know how to do it, look it up. And then you have to come into the world that you want to activate it in, and you have to find multi-level tokens and make sure that it's checked on. You will have to check that on the first time that you use it, and it will refresh your whatever scene that you're standing in. That'll activate it. Another rule is you have to have a GM logged in for multi-level token to work. So if you just have a player logged in, they won't be able to transport anywhere all by themselves. The reason is the module uses the GM's permissions in order to do all this manipulation of tokens and creating them and moving them and things like that. Rule number 3 is you must enable permissions on the activation journal icon for your players. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you, but remember when I was clicking on those activation icons as a player? the way you do that is by creating one that in fact does that. But you have to give the permissions first, which we'll go through in just a second here. The last rule is if you have duplicate destination names, multi-level token will randomly choose. So if you have more than one scene, and you created more than one scene called tower level entrance, it doesn't really matter the scene name, but if it's got the same destination hotspots in there and they have the same name, then you'll randomly pick between one or the other. So I typically recommend not having more than one destination, or at least if you do, you have to go in and change the name slightly so that it's unique. So with that, let's go through some of the setup process. There are some settings for multi-level token. And if you go into here, you can see what they are. You can auto sync your player targets, meaning you can target players and NPCs that are being projected from other regions, which we'll show you. You can sync the chat bubbles, so even if they're on another region, you can still see them chat. And then I have never used this, and it could create some conflicts with some other modules, but you can also make the flags from other modules sync as well, which can give you probably some cool stuff that I can't tell you about here. So the setup that we need to do is first we need to make a journal entry, and we'll just call it there. And we literally don't have to do anything else with it. We don't have to give it any special anything. We don't even have to call it stare. We're just going to close it, and then we're going to right click it and say configure permissions. And then we're going to give all players ownership over that, that item. Now we may not use this in every case, but now we've got it, and we'll just drag it out of our journal compendium or our journal tab whenever we need it. So it's there forever. I'll just keep it in my journal entries as something I can use in the future. The other thing for setup is we probably want to configure our drawing defaults. So here I've got lines with a width of 1, it's white, it's fully visible, and then I'll come over into here to fill, and you can make this none, which is probably a good idea. And the rest of this stuff doesn't matter too much, but I'll configure my default. And why I did that is now when I go to my drawing layer, and that's what this is, and I go to my drawing tools, it will give me a nice outline of what my multi-level token region will be. If I switch to select, then I can double click that, and I can configure my options for multi-level token. And we'll go through these in just a second. I can also make that invisible. So while the reason I make this light is so that I as a GM can see where I have a hotspot, even though it's going to be invisible to my players. And notice you can also draw things in different configurations. So I can draw in odd shapes and things like that, which I do use that. If you double click, it'll close that polygon. And now this itself is a teleport region that I can use. Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to use the Galleon because it's got a lot of different places to use examples of these different teleportation methods. So we'll use this map to start with. Let me turn parallaxia off. Now our ship's not moving. I don't want you guys getting seasick. So a couple of things that I'm going to do here. I'm going to draw a region that I want to be projected. So let's say it's this region right here. And I'm going to, it's not going to be a teleport region. Instead, it's going to be a cloning region. And it's going to be our source, because this is the main deck of the ship. And we're going to call this, let's call it Galleon main deck 1. So I'll say this is main deck 1, this is main deck 2. Yeah, so it's our source, it's the main deck, and everything else should be fine because we're not doing anything else with it. I'm just going to copy this in case I need it later. Now I'm going to take this whole drawing and copy it. Oops. And then I'm going to go up here to this deck and I'm going to paste it. You may not, whoops, get to my select tool. You may not be able to see the outline very well. There's the old diagram. And this time I'm going to double click it and I'm going to call this the target. And you can see my token that was on the first level has appeared now here. Remember, this is a different level. This is looking inside to the map room and to the mess hall. You notice he's darker, and I don't think he should be because it's not like he's sitting in a hole or anything. So I'm going to lighten it up. And everything else is good. I shouldn't scale him or anything like that. And now you can see it looks like he should normally look. I'm just going to right click it and make sure that it is invisible because I want these to be invisible. There's one other place that I need to be able to show, reflect him. And that's here. Go back to my drawing tool. Click paste. Put it in the same spot. Double click it. I could have just copied the other one, of course. Where is it? So from source to target. And there's my character. I'm going to do that again. This time I'm going to draw it here. This is my source. Call this main deck 2. Just hit enter. Copy that. And I would also see it here. Sorry, I always do that. And we'll make that a target. Get rid of the shading. And that should be good. And now we see our captain is now piloting the ship. That way, if I'm in the captain's quarters and there's someone out here, I'll be able to see them here. I'll see the players here as well. When you're here, it's hard to see way over to this deck. I could always draw another one over here, but I'm not going to do that for today. So that's how we've projected now and made our, helped, unify our maps. Now we're going to make some teleporters. Now in my main galleon, I do these over time and these modules change. So, I've probably implemented this differently in the real map, but we're going to build it from scratch here with everything that that this is able to do. So since this is a doorway, and I'm going to be able to walk into that doorway, I actually want to create a large space. Because for this one, unlike being an automatic teleporter, I'm going to use our system for clicking to teleport. So if I hold down Shift and I drag this here, maybe I want to make my icon a little bit smaller, the font size smaller. I can always give it a label like, to the map room or something like that, but I'm not going to do that for this one. Now I'm going to double click, go to my select tool, double click my shape. And this is going to be let's try doing in and out and see what happens. I'm going to call this galleon because that's my map. And then I'm going to say something like main deck to map room. And we want to activate it with a map node. Now let's see what happens. I'm going to copy this. See what happens when I create another teleporter here. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to keep it the same size. I'm going to grab my map node again. And make It's all smaller. And of course I have to change, or I might have to change something, maybe I don't. So I have the exact same name, that's what I want. It's in and it's out. I'm going to be snapping to grid, and I have to activate it with a map node. So let's see how this works. Bring out my test actor. Now I'm standing within the region. If I click that, it now teleports me outside. Click it again, teleports me inside. From inside, I can see my players out there. Now, one thing that I might want to do, you can see I built some invisible walls here because what I don't want to do is have my players walk out and now they're in the wrong map. I want to control how their movement goes. So since I did it this way, I can actually remove some of these invisible walls. I can bring that wall right over to here. I could even make this I could do two things. Let's see if this works. Let's also make a door. Just curious how this will turn out. So now I've put a door in that place. I can open it and I can see out, but I actually can't walk through that barrier. The only way to really walk through is to teleport my way there. And if I was the player, it would have followed, I would have followed my, the camera would have followed me out. But that looks pretty good. And this is something that hadn't been able to be done before when I first made the galleon. So this actually feels like a pretty good way of teleporting around, and it gives your players control rather than walking over something having to be automated. Now, just for argument's sake though, let's imagine that we did want to automate this. Let's take this and we'll switch it from click to operate to being automatic. And we'll do the same thing down here. Now you can see all I have to do is walk into it and I'm moving. The problem is these spacers are so big that it's very easy to accidentally teleport. So if we're going to use this method, we'd want to make these teleporters a lot smaller. Make the whole region smaller. And that's why you saw what I did before. I moved this region out entirely. So if I go back to my walls, find that invisible wall. This is why I did this. Because there was no such thing as a click to teleport back when I made this first map. So now, if I copy that, I replace this one, we'll see what happens. This thing right here, actually there's going to be a few things that we're going to test. Let me undo what I just did. Let's just see how this works. By the way, you may have trouble deleting that. Let me know. There's a select everywhere module that can work to help deleting those things. But here I just walked out. It threw me into this corner of this space. Well, if I walk back in, notice it puts me there. I do want to change this, and I want to say I want to activate it with a map node. So now I can walk in when I really know I want to enter. I can hit the map node and it sends me to the one space that I can actually teleport to. Versus here, I can just walk out on the deck and now I'm there. This may be a preferable way for you to build your maps. There's going to be a lot of chances of battles and movement out here, and if I'm going to have a large space, I'm going to want to be careful about walking into it. So here I could just make sure that a map node teleports me. Now, when I'm in this small space though, however, if I'm restricting my players just to when they walk out, they teleport, that seems like that's pretty controllable. So that's one way that we can set that up. Now, if we wanted to set up here internally, go to our drawing tool again, you're going to find that you'll have some odd places. Oops, sorry, there's another diagram out here, which I'll explain to you guys later. Get rid of it for now. If you hold down Shift, you can actually move these to exactly where you want to put them. Let's double click in, and we'll make this one a click to teleport. And we'll say it's in and out. And we'll call this Galleon map room to gun room. We'll call it left. Actually, we'll just call it 1. So this will be 1, and then the one below will be 2. And we want that to be activated with a map node. And we'll drag our map node in. And we'll even hold down Shift, and we'll put it exactly over the trapdoor. Now, if I walk into it, oh, nothing happens because I haven't built its twin down below. So I've copied that. Now I'm going to go down below to the gun deck. You're looking at the arcane upgrade, by the way. I'll just show you this because I think it's fun. You can upgrade the cannon in here. I'll have this, actually this thing is what I really want to grab. This entire piece is a deployable component. So you have regular cannons here, and then you can upgrade your ship to a better cannon, which I find really fun. Now if I can just get it back to where it was supposed to go. Anyway, we'll worry about that in a little bit. So let's go ahead and place our piece down here. And if we put it right about there, it should be good. We'll deploy another one of these. I wish there was a staircase icon. There isn't. If I double click on it, sorry, if I double right click on it, you can see what my options are. Anchors, books. I mean, there's even a tankard, but there's no staircase. I'm not sure why this list is so limited, but for now, we're using a book. I'm gonna hold down the Shift key, put it exactly where we want it. Because I just copied and pasted it, it should be the exact same as its twin up above. So let's go to our player, enter the area where we can click it, and you can see it takes us down below. You see I'm standing right on top of it, so this may be a problem. And this is where you want to place these things and then test how they work. So for example, I may want to move this all the way up to the corner or into the edge there. And likewise, I can make this diagram bigger. I can do something like that. The risk I run is that I teleport into a wall. So you're going to want to pay attention to where you put this and just make sure that you don't get your players stuck. If I come back here, maybe something like that will work. You can even have it encroach on this other one as long as I don't have it go all the way into where it's covering another token. So we'll build that in just a second. I go back to my test user. That's feeling pretty good. Of course, I just want to move this back to something like there. Now I've got enough room that I can navigate around. I was going to build another one of these. I might take my drawing tool, I might copy that. I'll paste this in. I'll hold down Shift so I can get it in the same spot. Drag another one of my journal notes in. And put it in just the right spot. Now I need to code this one properly. So now I'm on my galleon. I'm going to go from my gun room to the hold. And I'll call this 1 because we'll have it on this side and we'll have 2 on the bottom there. Otherwise, everything else is going to stay the same. So I'll just hit enter. Copy this one again. Now we'll jump down into the hold. Here's where things start to get a little bit tighter. I've got 2 staircases right next to each other and not a lot of room. So I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to put my stair in here. This might seem tedious and maybe somebody has a better workflow, but once you get it set up the first time, it's done. And let's drag our actor in. Test this one out. You can see it sort of dropped me here. And unfortunately, there's a wall there. So you can see how you can teleport yourself into the wrong spot. So how would we solve that? Well, one is we can change our walls. Another way is we can decrease the size of this. Let's just see what happens when we do that. Okay, well, that's a good spot to teleport to. And it looks like it put us in the right spot up above. So now we've managed ourselves pretty well. We need to train our users, you know, generally where they have to stand to get into these hotspot zones. But now I'm navigating around pretty well this map. Now I'm going to show you how to do, oh, here's another thing I did before. Created walls here that I don't need anymore because of the hotspots, the way you can control it now. So I can delete those invisible walls. Now I can just move around and not worry about accidentally teleporting down. Okay, now we're going to talk about the hold. So if we jump down into the hold area, actually we'll make it here. Oh, let me get rid of that. Okay, so this is going to be the window through which we see everything down below. So if we make this a target and we call it galleon hold, there's going to be some other stuff we're going to do with that, but let's follow me for a second. I'm going to copy it. We're going to go down to the hold. We're going to paste this. And I don't know, let's put it right about there. This one's going to be the source, because this is where our images are coming from. Source, galleon hold. Now, if we go back to the gun deck, we should see our friends down below. Okay, so what if I want to jump down there? What if I want to make something really cool and say, hey, players, you can actually jump down there? Well, let's also make this a teleport spot. So let's try this. This didn't exist when I first made this map, but we'll try it now. We'll say it's an in and out spot. And we'll call it galleon hold again. And we're going to have it be automatic, not with a map node. So we have to do the same thing to this one. In and out. Actually, this one's only out. Galleon hold. And this one is only in. But this one's also projecting up. And you'll notice I left the darker color in there because I do want it to look like they're darker now because they are down in the hold. So this is perfect. So let's see what happens when I attempt to jump into it. You'll notice it sends me to the same square that I entered it. And why that's effective for this particular map is I've actually drawn in both invisible walls and terrain walls over on top of it so that I can actually land on these boxes. And I find that tactically interesting, right? So I can run around and see everyone below and target them and all that kind of stuff. As soon as I jump off the boxes, though, I can't get back on them and I can't even see around them. So maybe if somebody jumps down, they can succeed on a dexterity check or acrobatics check and land on the boxes and have a softer fall, something like that. But I just think that's cool to build little things like that into my maps. And because of how multi-level token works, this really works. I can jump from any spot and end up in its equivalent spot down below. So I think that's just a great way to build maps. I won't go through the rest of this because you guys can pretty much see how to do it. You just keep duplicating what I did all the way down. And then of course there's more staircases. Here's a ladder that goes back up to the next level. And I would just go through, here's a ladder that goes down below. This one might even work. Yep. And this is how I would go about building my maps so that your players can have a lot of fun navigating around them. I broke these to do the demo, but hopefully that helps you guys see how to do this. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is I showed you these teleporters and this door. I want to show you how I built these things. We're going to go over to the docs map to do this demo. I'll just draw my test actor in case I need him. And let me show you the anatomy of this teleporter. So this is the teleporter that comes with my compendium. You can just import it and it's essentially a template for a teleporter. And as you move this control token around, everything that's attached to it moves around with it. I am using the token attacher module. So I'll show you what that looks like. So with that module active, you have in your actor's controls, you have this new button. It says open attaching UI. So now I'm looking at that token that I've got attached. And while this UI is open, I can do things to it. I can attach assets. I can attach an asset. I can detach an asset. I can unattach all assets. I can lock the elements, and then I can even highlight what's there, and I can even copy and paste elements. So if I want to mass produce some of these teleporters, I can. Let me show you what's inside a teleporter. First of all, it's the regular map note that you'd be used to. There's nothing special about it, except that I did build it with a map note that has player permission to access it. There's a sound file that just plays like a little magical sort of aura sound. There's a light that just pulses. There's no walls. There's the diagram, which is, as you can see, it's an in only. So there's no teleporting to this teleporting pad. I certainly could make it that way. And this one only takes me to one destination. It's coded for a specific map destination. which I've probably deleted at this point for this demo, so this one won't work. And then it has to activate via map note, because when they put it down, I want them to activate it with a map note. That's why I have 4 of these tokens, is if I have a whole party surrounded this and they're all standing around it, they may cover up one of the activator tokens. You can decide to remove this and just save it as your own new template, but that's how I've chosen to do it for my gameplay. And of course, the last piece is this PNG of the teleporter itself, which also comes with my map pack. So if I wanted to change this, now that I've got my UI up, I can do this. I can take everything off. And that essentially separates this token from those pieces now. So I can move it around and there's no association with it. Let's say I wanted to recode this destination. I can call it, you know, some other place. As long as I have that destination existing somewhere in my world, it will send it there. So now this is now coded to the proper destination. So if I want to build a new template out of this, I need to select everything again. Okay, so what I had to do here in order to select all of these is I had to enable the Select Everywhere module. Don't know why it's hard to manipulate journal entries or if I have some kind of module conflict, but once I enabled that, then I was able to use the select tool, lasso everything, and then connect it. I want to do the same thing with my sound file. And you'll see this blue thing that shows you that you've connected it. I'll do the same thing with this light. Same thing with the drawing, don't forget that. And the same thing with the PNG image. It's actually a WebP file, a lot more efficient. And now I've got everything selected. And the way I can confirm that is I can move this and everything should move with it. Now that I've got everything done, I can even lock and unlock these things. But now that I've got it done, I'm going to close that UI. Now this is essentially done, but I have one more step. I need to go back into my elements here. And let's say I just want to use this one. I'll duplicate this. And I'll open it up and I'll say, oops, I'll say teleport to somewhere else. Now I'm going to open my prototype token for this. I can close that. And as long as I've got this selected, which I do now, I can call this teleport to somewhere, and I can assign this token, this prototype token, to this piece. So I'm going to assign that token. And now if I delete this and I pull out my teleporter again, and if I switch to my drawing tools and I double click on this, you can see it's that someplace else. So in this way, you can create any number of teleportation objects that have and use the power of multi-level token to really essentially send you anywhere. If I took the last step to say, configure permissions, and let's say this player is a mage, I can make him an owner of this. If I was logged in as the player, I would actually see this teleporter to somewhere else in my list of objects that I could deploy. If I also gave my players permission to deploy, that's the other thing that you need to do. You have to go into configure players, configure permissions, and for your players, you want to give them the ability to, if I can find it, create tokens. So it allows players to place tokens on their own game canvas. So they can't create actors, but you want to be able to make them create new tokens. And if you do that, then your mages can have the ability to teleport around their world the way that God intended. The last thing I'll show you as an example is with the, where's my mansion door? There it is. This mansion door works the same way. I made it in the exact same way. It's got the same pieces, but this thing happens to be automated. So this mansion door goes to mansion pocket dash magic door. It's automatically in and out and nothing else required. And if you have this level, this is a free map, by the way, you have it loaded into your game, then this teleporter right here has the exact same name. It's an in and out teleporter. And that way, if you place your mansion somewhere, you can automatically pop in and pop out again, and you show up in the same battlefield that you left. Hopefully you guys find this interesting and valuable. I would love to see some of the stuff that you guys produce. So, let me know or link to things in the comments of videos that you guys make, because this really is a way of making very immersive, very dynamic battle maps that you can do with Foundry, because Foundry is such a great platform for doing this kind of thing. But yeah, hopefully you guys also get an idea of how I use my maps. And if you dive into things like the tower, now you can understand more about what's happening with staircases and automatic teleports and things like that. And it'll help you guys also use my maps in the future. Thanks so much. And if you want to see more of these types of things, just let me know in the comments.